The massive Zephyrian fleet moved through space like a dark cloud of death. 500 warships stretched across the void, each one the size of a small moon. Their black hulls gleamed with alien metal that could withstand the heat of stars. Admiral Korath stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the blue dot of Earth grow larger on his screens. "Such a small planet," he said to his officers. "Hard to believe these humans think they can resist us." Captain Vex, his second-in-command, pulled up the intelligence reports. "The scouts say they have primitive nuclear weapons and some basic space technology. Nothing that can threaten even one of our destroyers." Korath laughed, a sound like grinding metal. 500 years we have conquered worlds across 3 galaxy sectors. Planets with armies of millions. Weapons that could melt continents, shields that could stop our best attacks. And now we waste our time with this dirtball." The communication system crackled to life. A human voice came through, desperate and frightened. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the research station Gamma 7. Please, you have to listen to me. Earth is not what you think it is. You're making a terrible mistake." Morrison had been captured 3 months ago when his science ship wandered too close to a Zephyrian patrol. His station had been destroyed, his crew killed. But they kept him alive for information about human defenses. He spent weeks trying to warn them, but they never listened. "The humans grow desperate," Vex said with amusement. "This Morrison creature has been babbling about Earth for days. Claims his people have some great secret." Korath waved his hand dismissively. "Humans lie when they are afraid. We have scanned their planet 100 times. Cities of glass and metal, roads full of primitive vehicles, farms growing food crops. They burn fossil fuels and argue among themselves about trivial matters. What secrets could such creatures possibly have?" On the moon's hidden side, Commander Lisa Parker watched the alien fleet through her observation deck. The lunar base had been built inside a crater, disguised to look like natural rock formations from space. Thousands of humans worked in the tunnels below, monitoring every Zephyrian ship as they approached. "They're maintaining standard formation," reported Lieutenant Tony Green from his sensor station. "No scouts breaking off to check the outer planets. They're coming straight at us like we're helpless." Parker nodded. "Good. That's exactly what we want them to think." The command center buzzed with quiet activity. Technicians tracked the alien ships while communications officers listened to their transmissions. Everything was being recorded and analyzed. The humans had been preparing for this moment for decades. Dr. Kevin Brooks sat in his underground laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains. Banks of computers surrounded him, their screens showing data streams from around the planet. His life's work was finally being put to the test. The quantum field generators hummed softly in the caverns below, invisible to any scanner the aliens might use. "Amy, are the phase emitters ready?" he asked his assistant. Dr. Amy Foster checked her tablet. "All systems are green. The network extends through every continent and under all the major oceans. The aliens will never detect it until we want them to." Brooks had spent 30 years developing the technology that would make their plan possible. It started as a theory about manipulating gravity and electromagnetic fields. Now it was a reality that could reshape the entire planet if needed. Admiral Korath studied the tactical displays showing Earth's defenses, a few orbital platforms with basic weapons, some nuclear missile silos scattered across the major continents, fighter jets that moved slower than his shuttlecraft. It was almost insulting that the High Command had sent his entire fleet for such a pathetic target. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the planet," his communications officer reported. "Put it through." A human appeared on the main screen. He wore a military uniform with stars on his shoulders and looked tired and defeated. "This is General Mike Collins of the North American Defense Command. We know we cannot stop your fleet. We ask only that you spare the civilian populations." Korath smiled, showing rows of sharp teeth. "Your people should have thought of that before they refused to join our empire peacefully. Surrender now and we will consider mercy." Collins nodded slowly. We need time to discuss terms with the other world governments." "You have 6 of your hours," Korath replied. "Then we begin the invasion whether you surrender or not." The transmission ended. Korath turned to his officers with satisfaction. "See how quickly they break when faced with real power. This will be our easiest conquest yet." What Korath didn't know was that General Collins was sitting in a bunker 3 miles underground. The military uniform was real, but the desperation was completely fake. Collins was one of the best actors in the human military, chosen specifically for his ability to look defeated while feeling completely confident. Captain Tony Martinez prepared his small fleet of orbital defense platforms, The 12 stations looked impressive from a distance, bristling with missile launchers and energy weapons. To the Zephyrians, they would appear to be humanity's last line of defense. In reality, they were elaborate decoys designed to fail at exactly the right moment. Remember, Martinez told his crews over the secure channel, make it look good, but don't actually try to win. We want them overconfident when they reach the planet. News reporter Kate Williams sat in her studio, reading from a script that had been carefully prepared months in advance. Panic spreads across the globe as the alien fleet approaches Earth. Governments worldwide are calling for calm, but millions of people are fleeing the major cities. The cameras showed crowded highways and packed airports. What they didn't show was that the fleeing civilians were actually moving to predetermined safe zones that had been prepared for exactly this scenario. Every person knew their role in the Great Deception. Professor Dan Roberts watched from his hidden control room as the Zephyrian scanners swept across Earth's surface. The readings they received showed exactly what the humans wanted them to see. Nuclear power plants, conventional military bases, communication satellites, and industrial centers, all perfectly normal for a developing civilization. The scanners completely missed the massive installations hidden inside mountains and under ocean floors. They didn't detect the quantum tunneling networks that connected every continent. They had no idea that Earth's magnetic field had been artificially enhanced to hide the true scope of human technology. Engineer Lisa Thompson made final adjustments to the gravitational manipulation systems buried beneath major cities. All concealment protocols are active, she reported. The aliens are seeing exactly what we want them to see. The Zephyrian fleet continued its approach, confident in their overwhelming superiority. Admiral Korath had already planned the victory celebration. His officers discussed how to divide the human population for slave labor. The engineers talked about which cities to preserve and which to destroy as examples. None of them suspected that they were flying directly into the most sophisticated trap ever constructed by any species in the galaxy. Earth waited patiently for them to come within range, looking as helpless and primitive as possible. The last hour was about to begin. The Zephyrian fleet reached the edge of Earth's solar system like a wall of darkness blotting out the stars. Admiral Korath stood on his command bridge, watching the primitive planet grow larger on his screens. 6 hours had passed since he gave the humans their ultimatum, and now it was time to show them the price of resistance. Open a channel to the entire planet, Korath commanded his communications officer. The main screen flickered to life, broadcasting his image to every television, radio, and computer network on Earth. Korath's massive form filled the frame, his scaled skin gleaming under the bridge lights, his yellow eyes cold and merciless. Humans of Earth, his voice boomed across the planet, your time for surrender has ended. Your primitive weapons cannot stop us. Your governments cannot protect you. Submit now and serve the Zephyrian Empire, or watch your cities burn. Deep beneath the Colorado mountains, General Mike Collins sat in his command bunker surrounded by dozens of military officers. The massive screens around them showed the alien fleet in perfect detail, tracked by sensors the Zephyrians had no idea existed. Collins straightened his uniform and nodded to his communications team. "Put me through to their flagship," he said, making his voice sound tired and broken. Collins appeared on Korath's screen, his face a masterpiece of defeat and desperation. "Admiral Korath, we have consulted with all the world governments. We cannot match your military power, but please, our people are not soldiers. Most of them have never even seen space travel. Surely your empire has room for mercy?" Korath laughed, the sound echoing through his bridge. "Mercy is earned through strength, human. You show weakness, so you will receive the treatment of the weak. Prepare your planet for occupation." The transmission ended. Collins immediately dropped his act and grinned at his officers. "Phase 1 complete. He thinks we're broken already." Captain Tony Martinez floated in zero gravity aboard his orbital defense platform, watching the Zephyrian fleet approach through his observation window. His 12 stations hung in space around Earth like tiny metal insects compared to the massive alien warships. Each platform carried enough firepower to level a city, but against 500 enemy vessels they looked pathetically outnumbered. "All stations, remember the plan," Martinez spoke into his communicator. "Make it look desperate but not hopeless. We want them to think they're fighting our best efforts," Lieutenant Sarah Blake responded from Platform 7. Roger that, sir. My crews are ready to put on a good show. The first Zephyrian destroyers opened fire from long range, their energy beams cutting through space like burning swords. Martinez watched them approach and gave the order. All platforms return fire. Make it look like we're trying our hardest. The human orbital stations erupted in brilliant flashes of light as their weapons fired back. Missiles streaked toward the alien ships while energy cannons sent beams racing across the void. For a few minutes, the battle looked almost even as explosions lit up the darkness of space. But Martinez and his crews were actors in a carefully choreographed play. They aimed just wide enough to miss the most important targets, fired at maximum range where their weapons were least effective, and made tactical errors that any real military commander would avoid. The Zephyrians saw exactly what they expected to see: brave but hopeless resistance from an inferior enemy. One by one, the orbital platforms began to fall. Platform 3 took a direct hit to its reactor and exploded in a ball of nuclear fire. Platform 9 lost its weapon systems and drifted helplessly as alien fighters swarmed around it. Platform 12's crew abandoned ship just before it was torn apart by enemy cannons. Martinez's own station shuddered as Zephyrian weapons found their mark. "Hull breach on Deck 5, reported his engineering officer. "We're losing atmosphere fast. Time to go," Martinez said calmly. He activated the emergency beacon that would signal the hidden rescue ships. "All hands abandon platform. Make it look panicked but orderly." As the last orbital defense fell, Admiral Korath nodded with satisfaction. "Exactly as expected. Their best weapons lasted less than an hour against us. Prepare the landing forces." News reporter Kate Williams sat in her studio as fake emergency alerts flashed across the screens behind her. Her face showed the perfect mixture of professional composure and barely controlled fear as she read from her prepared script. "The orbital defenses have fallen," she announced to the cameras. "Military sources confirm that all 12 platforms have been destroyed or abandoned. Enemy landing craft are now approaching major population centers around the globe. Citizens are advised to evacuate immediately or shelter in place." The cameras switched to footage of crowded highways and packed train stations. Millions of people appeared to be fleeing in panic. Cars bumper to bumper on every major road. Airports overwhelmed with desperate passengers. What the broadcast didn't mention was that every single evacuation had been planned and practiced for years. Dr. Rachel Martinez stood in her underground laboratory beneath the Pacific Ocean, watching seismic sensors track the approaching alien ships. The facility was built inside a seamount 3 miles below the surface, completely invisible to any scanner technology the Zephyrians possessed. "Ben, are the gravitational sensors picking up their landing craft?" she asked her partner. Dr. Ben Carter checked his instruments. "Confirmed. 67 troop transports heading for major cities. They're using standard approach vectors, no evasive maneuvers. They really think we're helpless." Above them, the first Zephyrian landing craft entered Earth's atmosphere like falling meteors. Each transport carried 1,000 alien soldiers equipped with weapons that could punch through tank armor. Their shields could deflect human nuclear weapons, and their exoskeletons made them nearly invulnerable to conventional firearms. Colonel Steve Adams watched from his hidden command post in New York as the alien ships descended toward Central Park. His real military forces were safely hidden in underground bunkers, but he had positioned thousands of actors wearing military uniforms throughout the city. Their job was to provide token resistance before retreating in apparent defeat. "All units begin the withdrawal," Adams commanded. "Make it look like we're overwhelmed but trying to maintain order. Fall back to the secondary positions as planned." The fake soldiers fired their weapons at the descending alien craft, their bullets bouncing harmlessly off the ship's shields. When the first Zephyrian warriors emerged from their transports, the human defenders put up a brief fight before retreating deeper into the city. To any observer, it looked like a disciplined but hopeless military withdrawal in the face of superior firepower. Engineer Sam White monitored the situation from his control room buried beneath Manhattan's bedrock. For 15 years, he and his team had been converting the city's foundation into something far more sophisticated than anyone could imagine. Every building, every street, every subway tunnel was now part of an integrated system that could be activated when the time was right. "The aliens are establishing their command post in Times Square," reported his assistant. "Should we activate the proximity sensors?" "Not yet," White replied. "Let them get comfortable first. We want them to think they've won." Admiral Korath's personal shuttle touched down in Central Park, its landing legs crushing the carefully maintained grass. As he stepped out, breathing apparatus allowing him to survive in Earth's oxygen-rich atmosphere, he surveyed his new conquest with satisfaction. Human resistance had crumbled faster than he had dared to hope. Captain Ryan Foster observed everything from his concealed position in a building that appeared to be a simple office complex. Hidden cameras tracked every alien movement, while sensors analyzed their weapons and technology. The information was being transmitted to command centers around the globe through communication networks the invaders couldn't detect. "They're setting up exactly where we expected," Foster reported. "Standard occupation protocol. They're not even posting guards at the strategic locations." Within hours, Zephyrian forces had occupied every major city on Earth. Their flags flew over government buildings while their soldiers patrolled empty streets. The human population appeared to have fled or gone into hiding, offering no further resistance to their new overlords. Admiral Korath established his planetary headquarters in what had once been the United Nations building. As he looked out at the conquered city, he felt the satisfaction of another easy victory. Earth had fallen faster than any world in Zephyrian history. What Korath didn't realize was that he and his entire invasion force were now exactly where humanity wanted them to be. 3 days had passed since the Zephyrian invasion began, and Admiral Korath felt more confident with each passing hour. His forces controlled every major city on the planet, while his ships maintained orbital dominance above. The human resistance had completely collapsed after their pathetic orbital defense failed, and now his soldiers walked through empty streets like conquerors of old. From his command center in the former United Nations building, Korath watched reports flow in from across the globe. "All major population centers secured," reported Captain Vex. "No organized resistance detected anywhere on the planet. The humans appear to have retreated to rural areas and underground shelters." "Excellent," Korath replied, studying the tactical displays. "Begin the processing operations. We need to categorize the human population for labor assignments. The strong ones will work in our mining operations. The intelligent ones can serve as technicians, and the rest will be assigned basic manual labor." What Korath didn't know was that every word he spoke was being recorded and analyzed by Dr. Rachel Martinez from her hidden facility beneath the Pacific Ocean. The Seamount Laboratory had been monitoring alien communications since the moment they entered Earth's atmosphere, and now the humans knew exactly how the invaders planned to organize their occupation. "Ben, they're moving to Phase 2 just like we predicted," Rachel told her partner as she reviewed the intelligence reports. "They want to start rounding up civilians within the week." Dr. Ben Carter nodded grimly. "That gives us the timeline we need. Are the gravitational field generators ready for activation?" "All systems are green across the global network. We can initiate the first phase whenever command gives the order." In the hidden lunar base, Commander Lisa Parker gathered her senior staff for the final briefing. The crater facility buzzed with activity as thousands of personnel prepared for the most critical operation in human history. Through the reinforced windows, they could see the blue marble of Earth hanging in space, seemingly helpless under alien occupation. "The enemy has positioned themselves exactly where our models predicted," Parker announced to her officers. "Every major city now contains significant Zephyrian forces, with their command structures centralized in the most vulnerable locations. They've made the classic mistake of overconfidence." Lieutenant Tony Green studied the sensor readings from his console. "Their fleet is maintaining standard patrol patterns around the planet. No scouts checking the outer system. No deep space reconnaissance. They think the job is finished," Parker smiled coldly. "Perfect. Signal all hidden installations to begin final preparations. Operation Mousetrap enters its critical phase at midnight. Earth Standard Time." Colonel Steve Adams moved through the abandoned subway tunnels beneath New York City, leading a team of engineers toward their designated activation point. The tunnels looked empty and dark to any casual observer, but Adams knew better. Behind every maintenance panel and inside every utility room, sophisticated equipment waited for the signal to come online. "Sam, how long until the primary systems are ready?" Adams asked into his communicator. Engineer Sam White's voice crackled back from his underground control room. "All Manhattan grid points are operational. The building foundations have been fully integrated with the primary network. We can activate the entire island as a single unit when you give the word." Adams nodded as he reached the central hub, a massive chamber that had been excavated deep beneath the city's bedrock. Banks of computers lined the walls while technicians made final adjustments to equipment that looked decades ahead of anything the Zephyrians had seen on Earth's surface. The chamber hummed with barely contained energy as fusion reactors warmed up far below. "Sir, incoming transmission from the alien command post," reported one of the technicians. "They're requesting a meeting with local human leadership." Adams grinned. "Put me through. Time for another performance." General Mike Collins received the call in his hidden bunker, but appeared on screen from what looked like a hastily assembled refugee center. His uniform was dirty and torn. His face showed the strain of defeat, and his voice carried the weariness of a broken man. "Admiral Korath," Collins said when the alien commander appeared on his screen, "we're prepared to discuss terms for the civilian population. Many of our people are hiding in fear. They need assurances that they'll be treated humanely." Korath's scaled features showed amusement. "Your people will be treated according to their usefulness to the Empire. Those who cooperate will receive adequate food and shelter. Those who resist will face consequences." "We understand," Collins replied, bowing his head in apparent submission. "Where do you want us to gather the population for processing?" "We will announce collection points in each city within the next few days. Your local authorities will assist in organizing the transfers, or we will use more direct methods." The transmission ended, and Collins immediately dropped his act. He turned to his staff with a satisfied expression. "They're moving faster than we hoped. Signal all units to accelerate the timeline. We need to be ready within 48 hours. Dr. Kevin Brooks stood in his mountain laboratory, watching as the final components of his life's work came online. The quantum field generators stretched through caverns that extended for miles beneath the Rocky Mountains, their crystalline structures humming with energy that could reshape matter at the atomic level. 30 years of research and development had led to this moment. "Amy, what's the status on the planetary grid?" he asked his assistant. Dr. Amy Foster consulted her tablet, scrolling through reports from installations around the globe. "All continental networks are synchronized. The ocean floor installations report full operational status. We're detecting perfect resonance between all major nodes." Brooks nodded with satisfaction. "Then we're ready to show them what human ingenuity can really accomplish." Captain Ryan Foster maintained his surveillance position in the disguised office building, watching as more Zephyrian forces established themselves throughout the city. The aliens had grown so confident that they barely bothered with security protocols anymore. Their patrols followed predictable routes. Their communication channels operated without encryption, and their commanders moved freely through areas that any proper military force would have secured. "They're acting like tourists instead of occupiers," Foster reported to his hidden base. "No defensive positions, no contingency plans, no backup communication systems. They really think the war is over." The alien soldiers walked through Times Square as if they owned it, posing for photographs with their strange weapons and laughing at the primitive advertisements that covered the abandoned buildings. They had no idea that every surface around them had been converted into something far more sophisticated than simple concrete and steel. Professor Dan Roberts worked frantically in his concealed control room, coordinating with similar facilities on every continent. The scanning deflection systems had worked perfectly during the invasion, hiding the true nature of human technology from alien sensors. Now those same systems would play a different role in the coming revelation. "Lisa, are the concealment fields ready for reversal?" he asked his partner. Engineer Lisa Thompson checked her instruments. "All deflection arrays can be switched to amplification mode within minutes. When we drop the illusion, their sensors are going to show them readings they won't believe." Above ground, Admiral Korath toured his new domain with the satisfaction of a conqueror. He walked through Central Park, now converted into a landing zone for his shuttles, and admired the efficiency of his occupation force. The human cities were intact and ready for conversion to serve Zephyrian needs. The population had been cowed into submission without the need for extensive bombardment. It was a textbook example of imperial expansion. "Captain Vex," he said to his aide as they stood atop the former United Nations building, "send word to the High Command that Earth has been successfully integrated into the Empire. Resistance was minimal and casualties were acceptable." "Yes, sir," Vex replied. "Shall I request the construction fleets to begin converting the major cities for our use?" "Not yet. Let's finish processing the human population first. Once we know exactly what resources we're working with, we can plan the development phase properly." What neither of them realized was that beneath their feet, Sam White and his engineering team were making final preparations for the greatest surprise in galactic history. The building they stood on was not just a structure of steel and concrete, but the visible tip of a technological iceberg that extended deep into the Earth's crust. Dr. Jason Miller received confirmation signals from installations around the globe as the final phase of preparation neared completion. Hidden bases in the Australian outback, beneath the Amazon rainforest, inside the Sahara Desert, and under the Arctic ice all reported ready status. The Himalayas themselves had been converted into a massive weapons platform disguised as natural mountains. All stations report green status, Miller announced to the Global Command Network. We have achieved perfect positioning of enemy forces with minimal civilian casualties. The trap is set and ready to spring. The Zephyrian Empire had made the same mistake that had doomed countless other species throughout galactic history. The first sign that something was wrong came at dawn on the 4th day of occupation. Zephyrian patrols in Tokyo reported that their gravity sensors were giving impossible readings near the Imperial Palace. The devices showed fluctuations that suggested massive underground machinery, but their deep scans had found nothing but solid rock when they first arrived. Captain Zek transmitted his concerns to the orbital command ship. Admiral, we're detecting gravitational anomalies throughout the city. The readings don't match our initial surveys. Admiral Korath frowned as he studied the reports from his flagship bridge. Run the scans again. Your equipment probably needs recalibration after the planetary landing operations. But the second scan showed the same results, and now similar reports were coming in from other cities around the globe. In London, Zephyrian engineers found that their electromagnetic sensors were being scrambled by unknown interference. In Moscow, communication equipment started experiencing random failures that their technicians couldn't explain. In Sydney, the ground-penetrating radar system showed hollow spaces that definitely hadn't been there during the invasion. Dr. Claire Davis smiled as she watched the alien confusion from her control center beneath the Nevada desert. Phase 1 of the revelation is working perfectly. Their sensors are starting to pick up the real readings as we gradually reduce the concealment fields. Her partner, Dr. Alex Turner, monitored the global network status. All installations report successful field reduction. The aliens are seeing about 10% of our actual infrastructure now, enough to confuse them, but not enough to reveal the full scope yet. In his underground bunker, General Mike Collins received updates from human observation posts around the world. The Zephyrians were growing increasingly agitated as their instruments showed readings that contradicted everything they thought they knew about Earth's technology level. Sir, they're starting to deploy deep scanning teams to investigate the anomalies, reported his intelligence officer. Should we move to Phase 2? Collins checked his watch. Not yet. Let them dig a little deeper first. We want them really worried before we show them the truth. Admiral Korath paced his command bridge as more disturbing reports arrived. His science officer, Commander Thek, had been analyzing the anomalies for hours without finding any logical explanation. Sir, I'm detecting energy signatures that shouldn't exist on this primitive world, Thek reported nervously. The readings suggest technology at least as advanced as our own, possibly more so. Impossible, Korath snapped. We scanned this planet thoroughly before the invasion. We would have detected any advanced technology. That's what troubles me, Admiral. Either our initial scans were completely wrong, or the humans have been hiding their true capabilities using methods we don't understand. The truth was far worse than Commander Thek could imagine. Dr. Kevin Brooks had spent decades developing quantum field manipulation technology that could bend electromagnetic radiation around objects, making them completely invisible to conventional sensors. Every major human installation had been hidden this way, appearing as natural rock formations or empty space to alien scanners. Amy, it's time for Phase 2, Brooks told his assistant as they prepared to reduce the concealment fields further. Let's show them what's really under their feet. Dr. Amy Foster activated the next sequence. Across the globe, the quantum field generators began revealing humanity's true infrastructure. Mountain ranges that appeared natural suddenly showed hollow interiors filled with machinery. Ocean floors that looked like normal seabed revealed themselves to be artificial platforms covering vast installations. The Zephyrian response was immediate and panicked. Scout ships launched from the orbital fleet to conduct emergency surveys, while ground teams scrambled to understand what their sensors were showing them. What they found defied everything they thought they knew about human civilization. Captain Nicole Brooks had been waiting for this moment her entire career. As the ranking human officer still in apparent captivity, she had convinced the Zephyrians to let her coordinate with the scattered human population. Now she sat across from Admiral Korath in his command center, watching his growing confusion with hidden satisfaction. "Admiral," she said carefully, "I think there's something you need to understand about my species." Korath turned his yellow eyes toward her, suspicion evident in his expression. "What are you talking about, human?" "Earth isn't what you think it is," Brooks continued. "What you see on the surface, what your scans detected during the invasion, none of it shows the real picture." "Explain yourself," Korath demanded, but his voice carried a note of uncertainty that hadn't been there before. Brooks stood and walked to the large window overlooking the city. "Tell me, Admiral, in all your conquests across 3 galaxy sectors, have you ever encountered a species that willingly allowed itself to be invaded without using its best weapons?" "Your orbital platforms were your best weapons," Korath replied, but he sounded less certain than before. "Were they?" Brooks asked with a slight smile. 12 small stations against 500 warships? Does that sound like the best we could do?" Before Korath could respond, his communications officer interrupted. "Admiral, we're receiving reports from all occupied cities. Our deep scans are showing massive underground installations that weren't there before. The energy readings are off the charts." Brooks nodded calmly. "They were always there, Admiral. We just made sure you couldn't see them." The main display screen flickered to life, showing sensor readings from around the globe. Where solid bedrock had appeared during the invasion, the scans now revealed enormous caverns filled with technology that made Zephyrian equipment look primitive. The mountains surrounding major cities showed themselves to be artificial constructions, hiding weapons platforms of incredible size. Commander Thek's voice crackled over the intercom, barely controlled panic evident in his tone. "Admiral, the scanning data is impossible. The humans appear to have converted their entire planet into some kind of massive technological installation. The energy signatures suggest they have access to power sources equivalent to stellar fusion reactors." Admiral Korath stared at the impossible readings flooding his screens. "This has to be some kind of trick. No species could hide technology of this magnitude." "Why not?" Brooks asked quietly. "Your empire has existed for 1,000 years, but you've never been patient. You see a primitive world and you attack immediately. You never consider that a species might choose to appear weak while building something far beyond your understanding." The revelation continued as more concealment fields deactivated around the globe. The moon itself began to show its true nature as massive sections of its surface retracted to reveal weapon systems and defensive installations. What the Zephyrians had assumed was a natural satellite turned out to be humanity's largest military base. Dr. Jason Miller coordinated the global revelation from his command center, watching as alien panic spread through their communication networks. "All stations continue field reduction at planned intervals. We want them to understand the full scope gradually." Engineer Paul Davis monitored the Zephyrian fleet's response from his lunar observation post. "Their ships are beginning defensive maneuvers. Some of the smaller vessels are trying to break orbit." "Let them," Miller replied. "They'll find out soon enough that leaving isn't an option." Admiral Korath's fleet detected massive energy buildups throughout the solar system as more human installations came online. Asteroids that had appeared to be lifeless rocks revealed themselves as disguised battle stations. The outer planets showed artificial modifications that suggested they had been converted into resource extraction and manufacturing centers. "Admiral," Captain Vex reported with barely concealed terror, "our exit vectors are being blocked by installations we never detected. The asteroids in the belt appear to be armed with weapons that could destroy our entire fleet." Captain Nicole Brooks watched. Korath's expression changed from confusion to understanding to fear as the full magnitude of humanity's deception became clear. "You see, Admiral, Earth isn't a planet that happened to develop intelligent life. Earth is a weapon that intelligent life built their civilization around." The Zephyrian commander's scaled features went pale as he realized what she was saying. "You built your entire world as a trap." "Not just built," Brooks corrected. "We've been improving it for over 2 centuries. Every city, every road, every building you see is part of an integrated defense system. We knew that someday a species like yours would come and we wanted to be ready." Admiral Korath looked out at the city below him with new eyes. The buildings that had seemed like primitive structures now revealed their true nature as the outer shells of massive defensive installations. The streets themselves showed energy conduits running beneath them, connecting every structure into a unified network. But why? Korath asked desperately. Why allow us to invade if you had such power? Brooks smiled coldly. Because, Admiral, the best way to destroy an entire fleet is to let it land exactly where you want it to be. The Zephyrian Empire was about to learn that humanity had spent centuries preparing for this exact moment, and that their overwhelming confidence had led them directly into the most sophisticated death trap in galactic history. The final phase began at exactly noon, Earth Standard Time. Dr. Jason Miller stood in his command center deep beneath the Colorado Mountains, his hand hovering over the activation switch that would change everything. Around him, dozens of technicians monitored systems that had been decades in the making. The moment had finally arrived to show the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. All stations report ready status, announced his communications officer. Global network is synchronized and standing by for full activation. Miller took a deep breath and pressed the switch. Execute Operation Mousetrap. Show them what Earth really is. The planet's rotation began to slow as massive internal mechanisms engaged deep within its core. What the Zephyrians had assumed was a natural molten center revealed itself to be an artificial fusion reactor the size of a small moon. The entire planet had been converted into a machine, and now that machine was waking up. Admiral Korath felt the change immediately as his flagship's gravitational sensors went completely insane. The readings showed that Earth's gravity field was fluctuating in ways that violated every known law of physics. Through the bridge windows, he could see the planet below beginning to transform as its surface opened, like the petals of a mechanical flower. What's happening down there? He demanded of his science officer. Commander Thek stared at his instruments in terror. Sir, the planet is generating artificial gravity fields. The energy output is beyond anything in our databases. It's as if the entire world is some kind of massive weapon. Captain Nicole Brooks watched Admiral Korath's growing panic with satisfaction. Did you really think we would build cities on a normal planet when we could build them on something so much better? Earth isn't our home, Admiral. Earth is our weapon. The transformation accelerated as concealment fields shut down completely across the globe. Mountain ranges split open to reveal enormous cannon batteries that could crack moons. Ocean floors retracted to expose city-sized installations bristling with weapons that made Zephyrian technology look like children's toys. The atmosphere itself began to shimmer as protective energy shields activated around the entire planet. Commander Sarah Blake emerged from her hidden base inside what had appeared to be a simple asteroid. Her ship was one of hundreds that had been disguised as space debris throughout the solar system, waiting for this moment. As the concealment fields dropped, the true human fleet revealed itself in all its terrible glory. All ships, this is Admiral Blake, she announced over the fleet communication network. Begin encirclement maneuvers. Do not let any enemy vessel escape to warn their empire. The Zephyrian fleet found itself surrounded by warships that appeared from nowhere. Asteroids transformed into battlecruisers. Space stations emerged from behind carefully positioned debris fields, and weapon platforms that had been hidden for decades suddenly came online with targeting systems, locked onto every alien vessel. Engineer Paul Davis coordinated the final reveal from his lunar command post as the moon itself completed its transformation. The entire surface retracted to show the massive military installation that humanity had been building for over a century. Weapon systems the size of skyscrapers emerged from hidden bays while fighter squadrons launched from hangars that could hold 1,000 ships each. Admiral Tracy Lee to all. Human forces, came the voice over the communication network. The trap is sprung. Begin final demonstration. Admiral Korath watched in horror as his fleet became the target of weapons beyond his worst nightmares. The ships he had thought were the pinnacle of galactic military technology suddenly looked as primitive as wooden sailing vessels compared to what the humans were revealing. Sir, our weapons can't penetrate their shield, reported his tactical officer. The energy output from their defensive systems is impossible. It's like they're drawing power directly from their star. The truth was even more impressive than that. Dr. Kevin Brooks had solved the problem of unlimited energy by converting Earth's core into a controlled fusion reactor that could tap directly into the quantum field underlying reality itself. The planet now had access to more power than most species used in their entire civilization. Engineer Claire Davis activated the gravitational manipulation systems that had taken her team 20 years to perfect. Around the trapped Zephyrian fleet, space itself began to warp as artificial gravity fields created inescapable prisons. Ships that tried to flee found themselves caught in gravitational eddies that crushed their hulls like tin cans. "Admiral," Captain Vex reported with barely controlled terror, "we're trapped. The humans have created artificial gravity fields that we can't escape. Our engines can't generate enough power to break free." Admiral Korath realized that everything he thought he knew about warfare had just become obsolete. The humans hadn't just hidden their technology. They had developed weapons that operated on principles his scientists didn't even understand. Captain Ryan Foster coordinated the surface demonstration as every major city on Earth revealed its true nature. Buildings that had looked like simple skyscrapers split open to expose weapon systems. Parks and plazas retracted to show launch bays for fighter craft. Even the roads themselves lifted up to reveal the massive machinery that ran beneath the planet's surface. "New York grid is fully active," Foster reported. "All concealment protocols are down. The enemy can see exactly what they walked into." Sam White stood in his control room beneath Manhattan, watching as the city above transformed into the weapon it had always been designed to be. The Zephyrian command post in Times Square found itself surrounded by cannon batteries that emerged from every building. The aliens who had walked through the streets like conquerors now cowered as they realized they were standing inside the barrel of the largest gun ever constructed. Dr. Rachel Martinez initiated the oceanic reveal from her underwater facility. Across all of Earth's oceans, the seafloors opened to expose installations that defied imagination. Weapon platforms the size of islands rose from the depths while defensive systems created impenetrable barriers around the planet's coastlines. "Ben, activate the atmospheric processors," she told her partner. "Let's show them what we can do to their ship's life support systems." Dr. Ben Carter engaged systems that could manipulate the very air around enemy vessels. Zephyrian ships found their atmospheric processors failing as human technology interfered with their basic life support. The aliens who had thought themselves masters of space warfare discovered they couldn't even breathe without human permission. Professor Dan Roberts revealed the final surprise as Earth's magnetic field suddenly intensified 1,000-fold. The enhanced field created an electromagnetic prison that disabled every piece of electronic equipment in the Zephyrian fleet. Their weapons went offline, their communications failed, and their navigation systems shut down completely. "All enemy vessels are now dead in space," Roberts reported to the Global Command Network. "They're completely helpless." Admiral Korath sat in his darkened bridge, emergency lighting casting eerie shadows as his fleet died around him. In a matter of minutes, the most powerful armada in galactic history had been reduced to floating scrap metal by a species they had dismissed as primitive. Captain Nicole Brooks stood before the broken alien commander, her expression cold and implacable. "Did you really think you were the first empire to threaten Earth, Admiral? We've been preparing for species like yours for centuries. Every time someone tries to conquer us, we learn from the experience and build better defenses. You can't destroy the entire Zephyrian empire," Korath said desperately. "We have thousands of worlds, millions of ships." "We don't need to destroy your empire," Brooks replied calmly. "We just need to send a message that will reach every corner of the galaxy. Earth is not a planet to be conquered. Earth is a death trap waiting for the next species arrogant enough to try." Engineer Lisa Thompson activated the final demonstration as Earth's surface opened completely to reveal the planetary defense grid in all its terrifying glory. Weapons that could shatter asteroids, shields that could deflect solar flares, and power systems that drew energy from the fabric of space itself. The few Zephyrian ships that retained minimal power began transmitting desperate messages to their homeworlds. The recordings would reach the Empire's capital in a few months, carrying news that would shake the foundation of galactic politics. The humans weren't a primitive species to be enslaved. They were apex predators who had built their entire world as a trap for anyone foolish enough to threaten them. Admiral Korath's final transmission was broadcast across all frequencies as his ship's power systems failed completely. To any Zephyrian vessel receiving this message, avoid the Sol system at all costs. The humans are not what they appear to be. Earth is not a planet. Earth is a weapon, and we have awakened it. As the last alien ship went dark, Earth began to return to its peaceful appearance. The weapons retracted, the installations concealed themselves, and the planet resumed its normal rotation. To any observer, it would look like a simple blue world orbiting a quiet yellow star. But now the galaxy would know the truth. Earth was waiting patiently for the next empire that thought it could conquer humanity. The trap was reset and the hunters were ready for their next prey.